Tonight on The Verge.
Right now, I'm scared.
Warnings over a fourth surge and a presidential plea for a return to mask mandates.
Please, this is not politics.
With more vaccines on the way.
We have the vaccines.
And lawmakers on the southern border, where things stand in Washington on immigration reform. Plus,
But it's hard. It hurts.
voices of black mothers in the wake of an emotional day in the murder trial over the death of George Floyd. And
this is just a historical novel about Abraham Lincoln.
good old Abe gets canceled. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
Bowing to the growing pressure, the Biden administration finally allowing media to see the situation at the southern border. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Browder.
And good evening. I'm John Jessup. From processing to checking their psychological health, independent journalists witnessed firsthand the overcrowded detention facility for migrant children in Texas for the first time.
Meanwhile, as the administration and lawmakers try to figure out how to secure the border and reform our immigration system, many immigrants currently protected under DACA are wondering what the future holds for them.
CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson reports on what one dreamer hopes to see under the new administration.
Since 2012, the DACA executive order has allowed immigrants who were brought to the U.S. illegally as children an opportunity to apply for a driver's license, work permit, and social security number. Yet DACA permits must be renewed every 2 years, and the policy is constantly threatened by legal challenges.
I can't imagine me being here without having God by my side.
DACA gave Hilario Llanes, who came to the U.S. at the age of 1, an opportunity to go to college and work in the U.S.
I was able to pay my taxes. I was able to support myself, stand on my own 2 feet, and pay my way through college.
The House recently passed the DREAM Act to provide a pathway to citizenship for DACA recipients. But with the current situation at the border, even Republican senators like Lindsey Graham, who've sponsored the bill in the Senate, aren't likely to support it.
Biden has lost control of the U.S.-Mexican border. Until he regains control by implementing policies that work, it's going to be very hard to do the Dreamers or anybody else.
Llanes sympathizes with the families fleeing Central America.
My heart goes for the kids. My heart goes for the families because in reality, my mom did the same thing. My mom did everything she could. She risked her life. She risked my life to come to the United States. So I am those kids.
But he tells CBN News he agrees border security needs to be addressed.
As a Border Patrol agent, I didn't sign up for this.
And that agents need help dealing with the cartels who control the border, sharing stories like this one.
We were going to send her to the hospital. And as I got closer to her, I noticed that she couldn't speak. And I asked the medical staff what happened. And the reason she was going to the hospital because she had gotten gang raped. And the reason that she couldn't speak was because she had lost her voice in the process while she was getting raped.
Congresswoman Beth Van Dyne tells CBN News families should apply for asylum before coming to the U.S.
Allowing people to be able to apply from the first safe country that they come to, keeping these families united in Mexico or what other country that they're at, so you're not separating them, so we're not keeping them shoved like sardines on the floor.
Llanes tells me that without control of the border and bipartisan negotiations, he's not hopeful that any permanent solution for the Dreamers will be able to pass before the 2022 midterm elections. Reporting from Virginia, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Abigail. Well, tonight the president is extending the Paycheck Protection program, giving a lifeline to hard-hit small businesses.
In a speech with Hispanic leaders, the president pitched the recently passed $2 trillion COVID relief plan.
The American Rescue Plan is already helping get Americans vaccinated and putting money directly into Americans' pockets. It's a big part of the law that's helping small businesses keep their doors open as well. There's a big chunk that just does that.
The extension comes amid a Biden administration warning of a possible fourth surge in the COVID-19 pandemic. The president is urging states to return to mask mandates, even after pledging that 90% of American adults will be eligible to receive vaccines by the middle of next month.
Well, the nation is joining Coloradans celebrating the life of the police officer killed in last week's mass shooting at a Boulder grocery store. Today's funeral service for Officer Eric Talley came after 10 people were killed in last week's shooting rampage. Officer Talley was the first police officer on the scene when a gunman opened fire at a King Soopers. Described as a man of faith and a Catholic, Talley was a father of 7. His father said he, quote, loved his family more than anything.
Well, today in the White House press briefing, CBN News asked about gun control legislation in Congress in the wake of last week's shooting.
Yeah, hot topic. CBN News White House correspondent Eric Phillips was in the West Wing today for the briefing with White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki. Hey, Eric.
Yeah, I was in that press briefing, and several topics of interest came up, not the least of which being gun control. Psaki was asked if and when the president would actually take a trip to Boulder, Colorado, the site of the latest mass shooting. She said she didn't have a timetable, but that the president is busy trying to impact gun violence in America.
Right now, we're working on a couple of levers. One is working with Congress. There are 2 background check bills that have moved their way through the House. Many of you may have seen this weekend, Senator Chris Murphy, clearly a leader on these issues, somebody who has been a leader since Newtown and even before, sees a path forward. We've seen an openness by even some Republicans to having a debate and a discussion. We'll take that. We are also continuing to review and consider what the options are for executive actions.
Another topic of interest, the recently released WHO report on COVID-19, which has been criticized for its lack of information, including the origins of the virus. The U.S. and other countries have come together to release a joint statement calling for more.
It lacks crucial data, information, it lacks access, it lacks transparency. We don't believe that in our review to date that it meets the moment, it meets the impact that this pandemic has had on the global community. And that's why we also have called for additional forward-looking steps.
I asked the press secretary about what specifically the president is going to do about the controversial voter law that passed in Georgia last week and ones that are in the works elsewhere. Take a listen. Well, during his press conference last week, the president was very stern and expressive when it came to expressing his opinion about the so-called voter suppression laws in Georgia and elsewhere. But what tangible action will the president take to turn that tide?
One, I wouldn't call it so-called bias, because we know that in communities across Georgia, there have been polling places that have been closed. Those are in predominantly African-American communities, so I think that is real bias. The president believes it should be easier, not harder to vote, and he will look for opportunities to help push that legislation forward. He also signed a number of executive orders just a couple of weeks ago.
Psaki said the president will use every tool at his disposal to fight against the voter disenfranchisement. Well, finally, I asked her about last week's rebranding at the White House, where the administration went from being the Biden administration to the Biden-Harris administration. Is there anything to be read into sort of the rebranding of the Biden administration to the Biden and Harris administration?
I would take from it that Vice President Harris is an important partner. She's the first in the room, the last in the room on most occasions if she's in town and not traveling around the country. It's a reflection of the important role that she will play moving forward.
Of course, many people will be keeping their good eye on that situation, as some believe Harris is playing a greater role behind the scenes than the administration is admitting, and possibly preparing for a 2024 presidential run. We'll be keeping our eyes peeled as well, John and Jenna.
All right, Eric Phillips, thank you so much for that report. Joining us now is veteran journalist Ray Suarez. Ray, thanks for coming on Faith Nation. You just heard Jen Psaki's answer on the Biden-Harris administration. We all know why Eric asked her that question. Ray, any reason to think why Biden would not run for re-election in 2024?
Well, you know, most men in America don't live a hale, hearty, and vigorous existence into their 80s. And Joe Biden will be 82 on the next inauguration day. That's a reality. It's a reality that Americans who like him and don't like him have to face. You want to walk that line between signaling to your opponents that you're not going to run again, which would make him a lame duck immediately, and keeping your options open. And at the same time, let's think about what's been happening in this country in the last 6 months. You've got the first black woman, the first woman of Asian descent as your vice president. You want to build up the role of the vice president at this time. It's good politics. It's good politics given the combination of voters that came together to make Joe Biden president. So heightening her profile, I can't see any downside to it, even if you're fully intending to run again in 2024.
Okay. Ray, last week, a lot of people were surprised. Well, the White House, they announced that Kamala Harris, the vice president, would be in charge of the border situation. They've walked that back. What do you make of that whole situation?
Well, it's not going to be an easy win, however it comes out. The numbers heading to the border are large. They are not slowing down. It's partially a seasonal thing, partially a post-Trump thing. But however this comes out, it's not going to cover the executive branch in glory. It's a tough situation that they are struggling to cope with. So why have that on her ledger book, as it were, as we move into this first full year of the Biden administration? This is going to be an all-hands-on-deck thing. I think you're going to see Alexander Mayorkas taking a larger role in the coming months, as well as the Secretary of Defense.
Ray, along those lines, more and more there's evidence that suggests the situation at the southern border is nothing less than a humanitarian crisis. What do you see as the solution in the near term?
Well, this is one of the hardest policy challenges for consecutive presidents, not just Joe Biden, not just Donald Trump, not just Barack Obama. The multiple crises that beset the countries in Central America are not being solved. The push factors that are having people by their thousands just pick up and leave are not being solved. And so, unless we want to do something sort of horrifying, invade Mexico or deploy armed forces against unarmed civilians, there's no good answer to what's going on. The Mexicans have helped under Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the current president. They have cooperated with the United States in trying to slow the flow, but that's not the push factor. That's not really what's driving those people north.
Do you think President Biden would ever, reverse course and re-implement some of the legislation and laws that President Trump had on the books regarding the border?
I think the Democratic administration's approach to immigration and all matters having to do with refugees, having to do with humanitarian responses is different from the Trump administration's. The politics is different for Democrats. The caucus on the Hill is different for Democrats. One thing they do have, as long as this border thing can be handled, is the public is on their side. The American public has for many years, even during the height of the Trump administration, supported some broad answers, some re-engineering of American immigration law.
Unfortunately, we are out of time, so we'll have to leave it there. Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
Coming up, emotions run high on day 2 of the murder trial of Derek Chauvin. More on that when we come back.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead, just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Well, it was an emotional day, too, in the murder trial of Derek Chauvin.
That's right. Testimony featured a number of underage witnesses who testified off camera, as well as the testimony of Darnella Frazier, the then 17-year-old high schooler who recorded the video of George Floyd's death.
Yes, I see a man on the ground, and I see a cop kneeling down on him.
Was there anything about the scene that you didn't want your cousin to see?
Yes.
And what was that?
A man terrified, scared, begging for his life.
Their testimony followed that of a man trained in mixed martial arts who called 911 over what he described as a deadly move called a blood choke. And in the wake of witness testimony from a 911 operator who reported the incident to a supervisor, confused whether the closed-circuit camera she watched was frozen because of the time that elapsed while George Floyd died. Well, Floyd's death sparked the refrain, "Defund the police," during last summer's protest, but not so fast, says one group of mothers.
The voices of Black mothers have united to support police while also calling for greater accountability. Once again, here is Eric Phillips.
Organizers of this mission want to encourage police to be in communities, reflecting the oath they took to be officers of peace. And they believe mothers who have swallowed the most bitter pill can help with that mission.
But it's hard. It hurts. I mean, this is a pain I carry every day. This is my son right here, and I carry him in my heart, and it hurts.
Carolyn Johnson Turner is one of more than 2,000 mothers making up the newly formed Voices of Black Mothers United, an anti-violence initiative of the Woodson Center.
It is titled Black Mothers for a reason. Black mothers are the ones who are ignored the most.
Sylvia Bennett Stone is the group's director. Her daughter, Crystal Joy, and her friend, Taryn, died as random innocent victims from a single bullet after gunfire erupted outside of a Birmingham convenience store in 2004.
I had to lean heavily on my faith in order to get through some horrible nights when you can't sleep, you can't eat, you're losing weight.
That's where Voices of Black Mothers United will help as a support group.
Healing helps heal.
Beyond that, it aims to bring together law enforcement and faith-based community partners to find solutions to senseless violence, while also pushing back against efforts to take money away from police.
No one wants to talk about the Black-on-Black crime. Everyone wants to jump up and down about defunding the police. We are not supporting defunding the police at all. No, we're not. We are saying we need police in our communities. However, we are saying that we want accountability of all police officers.
We don't want no more police. Is that clear?
She says the Black Lives Matter and defund the police movements are so strong, many African Americans are reluctant to speak out against them, even if they disagree.
People feel as though they won't be Black enough, or they will not be accepted in their community if they go against this. So we're just saying, hey, someone needs to step up and say, tell the truth. We need police in our community.
And she says police need Black mothers partnering with them when and where deadly crimes happen.
That makes a huge difference on that scene. That makes a difference in how the community is going to respond to the police.
Just being there to help families who have just experienced the kind of loss these mothers know all too well. Retired Police Chief Rodney Monroe agrees.
Support those efforts, not defund the police. I'm a firm believer that when you can partner with families doing the active investigation of these cases, there's a much greater chance of these cases being resolved much faster. There's greater witness cooperation. There's better coordination with the district attorney's office as it relates to putting these cases together.
Organizers say no one can relate more to grieving families than these mothers, and nothing can heal better than the love of God.
The Voices of Black Mothers United is officially unleashed.
Sylvia Bennett Stone says although the group is called Voices of Black Mothers, those of any walk can feel free to join them because she says the pain of losing a child is the same for any mother. In Washington, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy?
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times bestselling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain, get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
Welcome back. A change of administration, a change in priorities. The State Department announcing today it's scrapping a plan promoting conservative causes championed under the Trump White House, like religious freedom. Secretary Antony Blinken called the former administration's priorities unbalanced, calling sexual and reproductive rights universal and co-equal. Well, books today can rise or fall by what people see on social media. So when Facebook refused to run ads for a new historical novel about Abraham Lincoln, it was potentially disastrous for book sales.
As Paul Strand reports, critics call it another example of cancel culture.
Book sales are propelled to a large degree through social media now, and Facebook is maybe the biggest of all.
But then Facebook refused to run ads for John Cribb's Old Abe.
Well, we were puzzled by it because this is just a historical novel about Abraham Lincoln.
Then he found out the reason.
The ads contained a quote by Mike Pence saying that it was the best book about Lincoln he'd ever read. And that was enough to get us on the bad side of Facebook.
The Washington Post investigated and wrote, Facebook says it's not singling out conservatives. It's merely blocking any ads from the right and the left that could imperil our civil order. Cribb shoots back, it's not Pence who's dangerous, but cancel culture.
What's imperiling the civil order are these sweeping rules that these tech giants have put out that affect millions of people about what can and can't be said.
He's had it with powerful people censoring free speech.
They seem to think that if they hear something that makes them feel unsafe or trigger somebody or they can deem as misinformation or fake news or whatever, then they should take steps to censor people and silence people and cancel them and make sure they're not heard. And that's not what this country is supposed to be about.
There was an upside to the controversy over the Old Abe Facebook ads. Sales of the book soared.
As is often happens when something is, censored, it gets the opposite effect of what the censor intended.
Cribb worries where cancel culture is taking America and brings up the famous no-holds-barred Lincoln-Douglas debates over slavery in the 1850s. Lincoln wouldn't have said,
"Don't let Douglas speak, cancel it out, censor it." He said he was glad he had the debate because he said, "We taught thousands of people who never would have given slavery a second thought to hate slavery." He said something really very Lincoln-esque. He said, "Evil can't stand a discussion."
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Up next, March showers bringing April flowers this year. When and how long are the national cherry blossoms in full bloom?
Region's first ROTC graduate student.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to cbn.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
Finally tonight, it is officially cherry blossom season in the nation's capital.
By Sunday, about 70% of the famous cherry blossoms around the tidal basin opened up, signaling spring has finally sprung here in the D.C. area. While the National Cherry Blossom Festival is in full swing, fans are encouraged to watch the events online or from a safe social distance. If you're in the area, though, be sure to check them out in the next 2 weeks because, Jenna, the blossoms are short and sweet.
They are. I'm hoping they'll last. My mom's coming to visit in about a week, so hopefully they'll be here for her.
We'll be able to catch them just in time, it sounds like. Well, thanks for watching, Faith Nation.
Have a great night.